Hey everybody, welcome back to the MyPilgrimage podcast. It's been a long hiatus. We took 3 months off, but we are back at it, and we have a few really cool episodes that we're going to be putting out in the next couple weeks. We have taken this time off because Seth and I are actively looking for someone to help us manage the content on the MyPilgrimage website and the podcast. We've moved on to some other projects that we're working on. Seth is working on his athlete project, and I'm working on a bunch of different stuff, and more to come on that later. But we are looking, so if anybody's listening and you are thinking, hey, I can help with some of this content, I can help manage it. We have the podcasts, we have all the video series that we've created, and we have the books themselves. And so if that's something on your heart and you're thinking about it, can you email me? It's mypilgrimage3, the number 3, at gmail.com. mypilgrimage3 @gmail.com. That'll come straight to me, David Taylor, and we can have a conversation about what that looks like and how it works. So, and frankly, like kind of how we see something like this being managed. But it is time for us to find someone who can really push this stuff forward. So I hope that's you. Give us a call, give us an email, that'd be great. Today we are talking about a term that is in pop culture, it's in mystic realms and New Agers and Christianity, and it's in the religious kind of ethos right now, and that is manifestation. What is it? How does it work? And can you do it? Do you need to do it? Do you have to do it? Seth and I both have kind of slightly different take on it, but it's actually pretty helpful stuff to kind of have this conversation about what is manifestation and is it accessible for you? That's my dog. So enjoy this episode, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to email, don't forget to comment if you like it, and let's have a conversation about manifestation over on the Facebook page, on the My Pilgrimage Facebook page. Thanks, y'all. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, long time no record podcast.
Yes, we took a hiatus, a creative hiatus.
Well, it was kind of a holiday hiatus. It's been like 3 months, I think, since we put a podcast out. Definitely want to pick that back up. I'm going to set a simple goal of trying to put one out once a month right now. I'm as busy as I can be with new career opportunities and new projects that I'm working on.
Me as well.
Yeah, and so I care about this stuff, and I really want to. I still want to have these discussions. So when they come up, we'll definitely do our best to record them, put them out there.
We actually secretly enjoy this too.
I love it.
Even though Dave and I talk, on a regular basis, these conversations are different because when you talk, knowing people are listening, the conversation changes it becomes we don't have a lot of intellectual discussion. Right?
Well, it's like how the kids,
how the kids catch it up,
talk about.
There's a lot of storytelling. I tell you stories about my life. You tell me stories about your life. But when we do this, we actually get a chance to just like intellectually work
kind
together,
of knock things around, which is nice. I have a few other friends that I can kind of do that with, but it's actually kind of rare for people to be able to do that, and this affords a good opportunity. We wanted to talk about manifestation today. There's this word
with a quick nod to Craig. We talked about doing a podcast about evil as well. I think that'll be the next one. Yeah, Craig, where down under here. Well, I think Craig, we're gonna do one about evil. Yeah, probably the next one we record.
Yeah, let's do that one this week, man. I got time. I got a little time right now. There's a little bit of a gap between this and that. So
okay, yeah.
Because it's calming down on the island a little bit in terms of tourism right now, which is nice. There's a nice kind of a little bit of a lull.
Omicron will do that to you.
Well, not in Maui apparently, because Christmas was busier than 2019.
Really?
I was bananas.
It's just in the last week, though, all these new restrictions across the country, like because all the records are being broken and stuff.
And we have seen a lot of cancellations of flights and a lot of cancellations. Canadians, a lot of Canadians come to Maui, they couldn't come. And so we did see that, but it was insane down there though, and the boat was just booming and everybody's crazy. So manifestation is one of these kind of funny things because it's in pop culture. Because if you got like Ariana Grande telling, I just like manifested that thing, and then you have you know what I mean, like you just it's every time there's an Oscar winning thing, the guy's talking about believing.
When everybody's got that friend that goes, when you say something negative like, man, it's shitty weather today, they go, dude, don't manifest that, man. Like you don't think that way,
right?
You go,
right. And we can point to a few kind of cultural landmarks of kind of you got the movie that you got The Secret books.
Yeah, that was big.
You were when you read those, you watched the film, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I watched the film and I read the book too, but I did it with a very critical eye on it because I was, when I started really going, okay, I need to understand manifestation. That was obviously one of the big ones that was out there.
Mm-hmm.
And,
It's like
there's different teachers that are very
one.
focused on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deepak Chopra, the 7 spiritual laws of success is one of the true, and that one's very, I mean, if there's a book that compresses the entire concept into perfect language in a very, very digestible way, that's it.
Agreed.
Teachers like Wayne Dyer, Elizabeth Hay, a lot of that, they're manifestation teachers.
So. Easy treat.
Well, and that has to be a part of this discussion, right?
Yes, it does. Like pastor pop culture has to be part of this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, because all these huge mega churches are essentially a religious. It's all that same language of manifestation dressed up in religious garb, with this one little toxic element of having this kind of transactional relationship with a divine figure. But
let's talk about that, because I think that we probably have a lot of people that have come from that space first. They're coming from a more religious kind of understanding, the Joel Osteen way of understanding the world. Does it work?
That's a great
is work
question.
Is work a functional word for this discussion?
It does. Yeah, it's a totally functional, and it has to be the marker. If it doesn't work, it's not true. But the thing is, the nuance to it, this is one of the funny things I've discovered over the years of learning to what the spirit is and how it works, is that you can use your spirit and manifest stuff and still be a douchebag. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. That's very confusing. Because
my apologies to our sponsor who said, feminine products sponsor.
Yeah. See, they told us not to use that term too. They said, when you record, please don't we ask you not use that term, or else we're going to have to pull our sponsorship.
Yeah.
So
you can totally.
I had one job.
I know, but I agree. Like you can manifest things.
Yeah.
And be kind of a selfish, horrible human being.
Yeah. And it's because the spirit is, you think of it like an operating system on a computer. If you know how to use it, it can work. Right. And so it's being a moral human being is not necessarily necessary to use it. Now, does being an immoral or dishonest human being limit your ability to use it? Yeah, I would say so, because ultimately integrity and truth, if you see it at a higher level, rather than seeing it as a moral concept, you see it as an energetic flow concept, then yeah, being in the truth, moving and walking in the truth, or in love, or in spirit, as the Apostle Paul would say, there's going to be a greater flow of that energy. Sure. But ultimately, I mean, Jesus was talking about manifestation all the time. He spoke about it all the time.
When in what context? I want
name the lilies of the field.
Chapter, book, verse.
Consider the lilies of the field.
Okay. Right.
I had Solomon in all his splendor, in how his manifestation was not arrayed as such as these, and yet, right, the Heavenly Father looks after them, takes care of them. The biggest teaching was the one about the birds, right? He would use nature metaphors a lot, because nature is a flow of abundance, and it's just a cycle of abundance. So he said to consider the birds of the air. They don't reap, they don't sow, they don't toil, and they don't even save up for winter. And yet the Heavenly Father takes care of them. That's pure manifestation language, because he's saying you don't even have to work. You don't have to save up or anything. And I put this to the test, man. I live in a flow, and I'm just switching to a next level maturity kind of thinking about this, but it was my goal to set out to go, is that true? Do I not have to work? Do I not have to toil, save up? Do I not have to save up? And will I still have everything I need always, whatever I want, whatever I need? And I live that way now. I don't save money. I don't work. I mean, do I do things that bring money in? Yes, but it's not work. It's something.
Well, I mean, that's just now this is just, you're mixing words up, because you do work. I mean, I'll call you.
Work. Well, again, work is.
I'm doing sessions right now, and that's
work is just a word, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Work is just a word. So work now in the psychology field, we call it a psychospiritual state. Okay, so work is a psychospiritual state of being. Play is a psycho-spiritual state of being. Right. You can have two guys doing the same job, one's playing, one's working.
Yes.
Right. And so ultimately work tends to be in a blocked thing. It's done through the ego, where play is done through the spirit. You observe a kid playing in a sandbox, he's playing, right? And he's flowing in this kind of thing, and it's coming from the heart chakra. It's coming right here from the heart.
Okay, well then let me ask you then, because your experiment that you were doing, for the last however many years,
about 8 or 9, was
I'm not going to go get a job.
Right.
but you have a job. You've created your own job, but again, you don't call it a job or call it work because it doesn't feel or call like what the word work brings up.
Yeah.
But is this part of that you were describing a new maturity of understanding? Do you look back now and you go all the way back to the beginning of the experiment and go, if I understood what I understand now, then would you have changed anything? Or would there have been a different approach then?
No, it would have been the same. It would have been the same, because what I needed to first go into was what I was looking for was a freedom of the mind completely to live inside the flow that Jesus is talking about. So I heard something where somebody said, like, if all human beings disappeared from the planet, like today, like nature would take back over the cities in a matter of just a few months. Like nature would completely take over.
Yeah.
And it's because nature lives in a constant growth and abundance flow of creative energy. Yeah. And it does it with itself. You hear about forests have this ability to maintain and love on each other and just maintain that. That's the flow. And I wanted to find that flow. And it's been very much a part of my soul mission to come into that flow. And to do that, I had to exit the mind. So I had to exit the brain space. So going to get a job, trying to figure out how to make money, trying to figure out how to invest money, that's why anybody who's ever said to me, and you said this to me quite a bit, like over the years, like, well, here's what you really should do. I basically made an oath inside myself that all of that advice, all of that stuff, all of that, here's what you should do, I'm just putting that aside for several years. Yeah. And now I'm in a point where it's just all flowing. It's just a free flow through my life like this. And now I'm kind of going, okay, so now that that's flowing, I have this energy flowing.
When you say flowing, you're saying you have money now.
Yeah, it flows to me. Money flows to me. Love flows to me. Creativity.
Because in the end, that's what the audience, most people are sitting there going, well, does it mean you have money? Yeah, right. Because everybody wants money.
Right. Now, of course, in manifestation terms, if we want to actually manifest, we're talking about, you can just manifest money, and then you can realize that money doesn't make you happy. And then you can be like, well, what's the deal? Or you can go get 3 jobs and work those jobs and realize money doesn't make you happy. There's lots of different ways to create it. Manifestation is a energetic way of creating that money. Deepak uses the term abundance, and that's what Jesus was speaking to. So when he said, consider the birds of the air, he was talking about a type of abundance that exists in nature. Well, look at nature. It has everything it needs, right? It always flows around it. And he was trying to explain this to an audience that just like was stressed out all the time, right? Well, how are we going to survive? So
right. Right. This is in Nazareth in Israel, the Jews, they're stressed out all the time.
Yeah. Stressed
90% out. Tax rate.
All the time. Right. Exactly. So they're just, how are we going to eat? Yeah. And so he's trying to explain that. So he's going, but look, he's trying to explain the nature of God. Now, when Deepak uses the term abundance and he talks about manifestation, he's referring to that. So he's saying it's not just money. Abundance is the flow of all things needed. When we hear Paul talking about the fruit of the Spirit, he's speaking to abundance. This is all the things that come when you're operating.
It's not just money. He talks about luxury that way too, right? He talks about luxury, like he talks about how, like, if you're taking a bubble bath, I like how he says bubble bath. Yeah, you're taking a bubble bath, and you're having a glass of champagne or even just a cold beer or whatever, and you're relaxing. He said that's luxury. Yeah, and you can have a bubble bath in just about any rundown apartment in anywhere, right? You don't have to be in a fancy house to have a luxurious experience,
right?
But your perspective on it has to be that. It has to be. You start to become that understanding of. Yeah. It's interesting because for me, it's a matter of perspective all the time. My approach has been different than yours, and not right or wrong, but just my approach has always been. Well, can I tell a story? I'll tell a story real quick. And you've heard this story probably many times. Years ago, I was working
never gets old though.
Right. I got married young. I had kids young. Then Maria and I decided to go to college, moved to Alaska. We're in Anchorage, working, at times 2 jobs, going to school full time the entire time, both of us, with a kid. And I was 23 when Andrew was born, so I'm like 25 when I was working. We lived on campus at the University of Alaska, Anchorage, and right next door is a hospital. And one day it was like May, I pulled a double shift, working in the grill in the cafeteria, and then working in the coffee shop in the emergency room, and not the happiest jobs, really difficult jobs.
Great stories came out of those jobs. So
I know.
Great stories.
After 14 hours, I'm walking home and my legs are dead. and I'm walking back to the house and to the apartment, and then all of a sudden I got hit with all this joy. It just hit me like it came from outside of me and hit me in the chest. And then it kept hitting me to the point where I was jumping up and down with my arms in the air and hooting and hollering in the woods for no reason. I mean, and I was like, tears were coming out, and I was just like, and I was being taught. It was it was a very mystic experience. And this is long before I had my kind of full on, deconstruction or whatever, White Raven Center thing. But I remember getting home, and I said to Maria, I can work this job forever. I could work at the hospital forever and be just fine. And I must have been complaining about the job at some point, but she's looking at me and going, what? And I said, I can work anything. I can do any job. Right. None of it. Cause it's me. She's my happiness.
I hope not.
I was like, my joy, it's inside. I don't, and my approach from then on, and it had been to an extent already, but it's like I was being reinforced by this idea of I bring this passion and joy to whatever I do. Right. I bring the passion and joy to whatever I do. And so that approach has manifested a life in which, for me, manifestation has been a pretty simple process of like, well, what do you want? Oh, I like this. And then, and especially when we ended up in Hawaii, I was like, wow, I wanted this. And I wanted to, have time. And I wanted to not have just the rat race. And I wanted to be with my kids more. And I wanted to go into the movies. I'm writing movie scripts, and all these things kind of happened. And I realize now, for me, the process has gotten distilled down to a very simple idea, and it's, here's what I want. Of course, you see what I want, universe, God, you see it. Don't need to really even shove it in your face. I'm just going to leave it out there like a hot air balloon that floats around perpetually. And I'm just going to do today. And I'm going to do today as present and as focused and present and at peace as I can. And then those things will all happen. And there's just this kind of a knowing of that now. And if I try and explain it to people, some people get that. Some people just don't, Some people go, oh, that doesn't make, that's because it is a faith thing. It's a straight up faith. Like I just know that's, but it's a knowing. It's not really but I'm not attached to it too. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't be like, you didn't give me the thing. None of that would happen, So
But it's interesting. So when you and me 4 years ago, we sat on the deck of your house in Wailea, and we were sipping an unbelievable scotch. We're watching the sunset. I don't remember. I think it was an Oban. Oban,
of course.
Yeah, but we're sipping this scotch, and I'm watching the sunset. And at the time, we were barely eating. I mean, that was our life.
Yeah.
And just hanging on, And I was in not the hardest part. 2015 was the hardest part, but I was in a really hard part, and we would be homeless literally just a few months later. And I said, man, this is awesome. And you said, yeah, I'll never forget. You said, everything's awesome. Nothing means anything. and I go, it's like that? And you go, yeah. I was like, interesting. Watching you wrestle that, because you've done this thing, you work your ass off. You know what I mean? And you were coming to this place, this really important place that I think everybody comes to at some point. Right. But what you do in that space is really important. And you're coming to this space going, okay, and confronting the meaning of true happiness and true joy. Because it's interesting because and this is most people, right? Most people's approach to manifestation is an egoic one. If I get money, I will be happy. And they have some pop culture references to concepts of live your best life, hashtag live your best life, or whatever.
It's the girl in a bikini on the beach on Instagram, and it says, through God all things are possible.
Yeah, well, that's why I have a picture of my kids at sunset on a beach on Maui on my desktop here, and I keep it there now because I took this amazing picture and I posted on Instagram. I was like, oh man, it's amazing. Not 3 minutes after this picture was taken, I lost my temper completely. Just lost my shit. was so pissed at
on
my
the
daughter
beach at sunset.
Because in the picture,
oh no,
I'll show you. It's pretty funny actually. In the picture, Maverick, he's standing close to the camera, and Kenya's down by the water. And literally just a few seconds after that, Kenya just decided to pick up huge amounts of sand, and throw it right in her brother's face.
Oh no!
And he starts screaming and crying, and
That's
I'm just like, get the
number
fucking.
one.
I'm just like losing. So and it's so funny because it reminds me that true happiness, peace, joy, it's an illusion.
Sure.
Right? There's something that happens. What you experienced on that trail where that joy was hitting you, that's actually what it is. It's coming from inside of us, and our goal is to come in and make that more and more of a permanent reality. But this idea that once you have this, you got that. And dude, Mark, our brother-in-law, Mark, said this to me the other day too. He goes, they tell you, it was really interesting. You have this weird moment of vulnerability at the holidays. He goes, they tell you once you get this, then you'll be happy. Once you get the company, they have, once you get the money, then you'll be happy. You'll be satisfied. He goes, and I got that now, and I'm just waiting for when does that come?
Yeah. Actually, when I had said to you, when I was, I said everything's awesome and nothing means anything. I still completely believe that, but now I'm at peace with that idea, right? Because now I go, nothing means anything.
Now you're Solomon,
which means everything
is meaningful.
I can do it. It's just a big sandbox.
Meaningless.
Yeah.
Chase after the wind, and you finally go. And once you come to an acceptance that the meaning isn't this is just an experience. It's a play that's playing out in front of me. And you had to find that from a place of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I had to find that from a place of poverty.
Right.
Because when we were homeless for 2 days, and the first night we were we slept in the attic of a friend's house in our sleeping bags with our kids. We had to get them to school the next day. I still remember they're asleep in their sleeping bags, and me and Amy sitting there and really close, be quiet. And she goes, do you feel a very strange peace? I said, yeah, like really like a heavy, deep, profound. She goes, yeah. I go, I think that's why we had to do this. And we just found it from the two opposite sides, but we found it.
Well, I could say that for me, every time I get every time something that I had wished for, every quote unquote manifest or whatever, something happens and I go, holy crap, there it is. Yeah. That process is getting more and more kind of functional, less surprising, and I have less attached to it, because like the first time when you go, I should be content with this, and you're trying to figure, you're doing what Mark was talking about, saying like, why am I'm waiting for it to come. When you start realizing that that's not how it works, you get a thing, I want a really nice house.
Yeah.
Get the nice house. And the question is, okay, now how can you bring joy to the world, with this house? You know what I mean? Like how does these experiences that you can now provide, like now you got to go do it. And there is a work. It's like every time you get a thing, now there's work to do. And I always tell that, like, it's always like, I got it. Okay. What's the job?
Right.
Now I gotta work. You know what I mean? And I've learned that's more and more the case, for me.
The thing is you have to switch to being a spiritual thinker to get this though. If you do it through ego, your ego is just ego will hijack. How do I help the world?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because if I help the world, then I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
How do I be creative? How do I make movies? Because then if I make a movie, then I'll be happy, and the ego will do it. That's why it's more important the operating system that we're functioning in than it is the thing we're actually doing.
Sure.
And what
I agree.
I think that's what I saw in you is I saw you start to switch more and more, even though you had a spiritual perspective. You reached a space where you realize, okay, my ego was a big part of how I got to this place, and now I have to let that go and let spirit take me into this space. And that's what that surrender was. You were surrendering to your spirit as the primary operating system for your life.
Yeah. No, I think the spirit had been doing all these things for me and creating all this manifestation. It just was a matter of switching to, like you're saying, going, oh, this is all spiritual. This process is a completely spiritual process. And and for me, and this is just for me, that's always meant that there's something to create.
Right.
And I used to ask, I'd be like, I need to rest. And what I found now is that there's obvious times when it's time to rest now for me. I go, oh, this is a restful time. And I can take those things for myself now. I can say, but then right on the heels of that is always like, there's something to make, there's something to create. And I think that process is never going to stop. I think one of the things that, like the trap that maybe that Mark is in, is that you think that you're going to get to a point where you can stop.
Yeah, well, that's what the ego says.
Yeah, you can stop and you just go sit on that whole life's a beach approach of like, and this island's full of that, right? It's full of dudes who like
the homeless people too, like all the homeless people on the island. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
came here on vacation, decided to leave my family.
Yeah, let me just come and sit on the beach, man. Like, I'm just gonna sit here, and they think that sounds really enlightened when they say it, and I always look and I go, so you're that's all you're gonna do the rest of your life? Just sit on the beach? Yeah, man, just sit on the beach. Like, can't beat it. Like, no, I could probably beat it. I'm like.
But it's interesting. It's an important thing because the ego is a part of the creation process.
Yeah.
But it has to be submitted. There is a hierarchy to this. And that's the thing. There has to be a hierarchy. Even if Mark's sitting there going, waiting for it to come, he's never going to reach that spot until he submits his ego to his spirit.
Yeah.
It has to come to this point where you're going, it has to be deeper than this. I was literally just texting with a buddy of mine because he's starting to do this thing now. He's living this very mystical spiritual life. And for years, he was just like, he thought I was insane and, and didn't trust in, and you're just new agey or whatever, and all this kind of stuff. And now I'm like he posted this thing on Twitter the other day about spiritual life and and I said, it sounds like a lot of new agey stuff. I commented on his thing and he's like, yeah, I became a mystic, man. Of course you did. Okay. What was it? What was the writer? He said, he's a Catholic guy. He said, in the future, we will all be mystics or nothing. Right? Because you have to become a mystic. By its very definition, you have to become a mystic to accomplish true manifestation of joy, peace, happiness. I mean, you have to. You have to. It's a requirement of the human experience to become a spiritual human being living in your spirit as an operating system in order to accomplish true actual peace.
Defining mystic, obviously mystic for you and mystic for, like our buddy Sam, who's a bit more type A, it's going to look a bit different. I think that I would define that as you have to become aware of that operating system and its function in your life and how to engage in it. You know what I mean? Right. Like I was a young man looked me up and asked for some time with me about a month ago. And so I finally we got together on Zoom yesterday and we were talking and he's 18, really, really smart kid. Yeah. Trying to start figuring that out, but he's 18, right? We're looking at college, looking at what he wants to do with his life and stuff. And he's like, I'm like, so what, what's the thing you're trying to, he goes, I just, I don't want to work at a soul sucking job.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's not a real thing, And he was like,
right.
Like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, there are no soul sucking jobs. I said, they're just jobs, And I'm like, you if you're gonna get your soul sucked by a job, then you got to be looking on the inside to figure out like what I want to do. I said, every job brings a level of experience with it. I said, whether that's good or bad is just a matter of perspective. I said, I look back and I thank God for every quote unquote soul sucking job I ever had, because now I get to tell stories and I get to write movies and things like that about them. And they're great and they're applicable and they're helpful. I said, I was like, I think that the biggest thing that we can take is that this concept of like I was, saying before, like the joy comes from within, it is a, so manifest. I guess I'll put it this way.
I want to say something on top of that. Because I had a guy, a friend of ours, probably listening to this podcast the other day. We were chatting on the phone. Nikhil, who's a well-known MyPilgrimage contributor. 21 years old. And the other day I was chatting with him. He was working. He works at a smoke shop, and he was working. And he kept kind of ripping his job. Like, his fucking job. It's like, hey man, stop ripping your job, dude. Like, you're missing everything. I go, every single customer, everything. Jobs are not meant to give you love and fulfill you and make you happy. They are here to teach you, period. So stop ripping your job. Pay attention so you can learn the thing you're supposed to be learning about yourself. And you don't know where it's going to come from. Customer, manager, bad experience, tragedy, whatever.
Yeah. You're
here for a reason. Embrace it, and then you will be moved somewhere else. And that's the whole thing. It's just a matter of switching to spirit as an operating system.
That's it. Keep your heart open.
Yeah. And now where it gets weird about manifestation is that the more in that you are, your consciousness expands. As you heal, change, and grow, your ability to manifest starts to get a little freaky. And you can end up in a space that all those people are talking about that we don't understand, but we think we do.
Yeah.
Or you can start to just think about something, you put your focus on something and it appears.
Okay,
I'm at a spot where I can do that with smaller things.
Me too. I'm at the smaller thing where and it seems really easy. The small stuff is and not even if I wouldn't even call it small stuff, but I'm working now. Now I'm going, well, I guess we're gonna aim big for these next. I have some big things, really big things now. And I go, but when I start tapping into that stuff, it feels the same. I go, oh, it's not actually that big. It's all the same.
To spirit, there is no big and small.
There's no big or small.
There is a relationship between the fifth dimension and the third, to nonlinear space and time and linear space and time. There's a relationship. So time becomes an element in the sense that if you were like, well, I want to manifest a yacht.
And I want it now.
Right. And I want it now. Well, spirit's going to be like, well, spirit doesn't do it by dropping it on your head because that wouldn't vibrationally match.
Right.
So spirit looks at your life and goes, well, we have to remove this. It's a hyper intelligent organization system. So it looks at you as a Rubik's Cube. Yeah. It just goes, well, it's going to take about 120 turns on the Rubik's Cube to make that. So here we go. And then our job is to respond to that.
Right.
And then manifest. With small stuff, there's not much energetic shifting that has to happen.
Right.
Like last summer, I was like, we moved into this house and I was moving I have a charcoal grill, and I've always been kind of a purist when it comes to the grill thing because I enjoy the charcoal and how that works, but it's a lot of work, And
a lot of work.
Yeah, and eventually you're like, God, I don't use it.
It does taste better though. It does.
It does taste
without
better.
question.
Yeah, but I got to the point where I'm like, man, it's a lot of work. And I finally said, babe, I think it's time. I think I'm going to get a gas grill so I can just, pop it on.
Get it done. Yeah.
She goes, okay. And I go, yeah. And she goes, manifest that shit. That kind of thing. And I was like,
that's the
okay. And I just kind of set an intention. I literally just closed my eyes, spirit. This is what I want.
Gas grill.
And 2 hours later, no joke, 2 hours later, our dear friend Sam sends me a picture of a gas grill. Says, hey, do you want this? And I go, yeah. And he goes, my tenant left it at my rental place, and I already have a nice one. So, and it's in great shape if you want it, man. I'm like, dude, An hour later, he dropped it off.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff is pretty common for me now.
Right.
So that's kind of easy. Now I'm at a point now I'm going, okay, I've got this flow, this abundant flow. It's going like this. And I'm like, can I create little tributaries? Can I channel some of the energy towards this now? And that's essentially what manifestation is. I'm going to channel some of this creative energy toward this or this and this. And I'm going to continue making things and I continue doing things. But I literally spend no thought energy anymore about how I'm going to get something.
Right.
Just don't.
Right. No, because it's a total waste of time. And that's why I like talking impossible stuff. In fact, with Sam, we've been doing this thing where we've been talking about manifestation, and he was saying, how does it work? And I keep saying, well, what do you want? And he's like, well, I'd like there's some, and he starts naming projects he wants to do around the house. And I go, well, no, those are all things you can do right now.
Yeah, you can just do it. Yeah.
You have the money to do it, and you can just go do it. And he's like, right. And I was like, what's the thing that your ego says you cannot have, but you want? Yeah. And he said, I'd like to be debt free. I was like, great. And you're like, and he can't visualize that. I go, that's perfect. That's a perfect thing to go, okay, let's start talking about that, about working on that simple idea.
And an important side note with this, most people, like our buddy Sam, live in fixed income jobs.
Right.
Now, not that he still gets, he gets his raises, his annual raises, and he gets this thing, and he's in a union and all this stuff, but you have this, and I can work some overtime and get some extra money. But it's tough because they live inside this box where it's like, but this is what I make.
Yes.
And so busting out of that mentally, going, no, spirit can give you anything at once in any way at once. All you have to do is be completely open to it, and then let your desire kind of lead the way.
Yep.
But the Buddha said, you use a thorn to remove a thorn and throw both thorns away. And he was referring to desire.
Yeah.
Is a really important thorn because it helps us remove attachment.
Right.
So we let desire lead us. And then eventually, once you're done with attachment, you can throw desire away too if you want.
Right.
So even for me, like I want and some of my friends know this, I want a Jeep Gladiator. I really have this thing for Jeeps. And I drive a shitty car. And I've probably talked about it on the podcast before. When you say, but I refused. I made a deal with God.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to manifest this. I'm going to manifest the Jeep.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm going to manifest this. You're going to bring it to me in your time. And I will see it as a sign that it's time to do that. It's going to come when the engine on this one stops working.
Right.
So, and it's hilarious. So every time that I get in the car, once I fill the tires up again, and I get in the car and I roll the window down so I can get in the car because the door handle snapped.
Right.
And I adjust the rear view to look under the sagging carpet on the top, and I turn the screwdriver to start it. Every time I do that, the engine just purrs to life.
Yeah.
I can live. I literally just left it.
You're like, damn.
For 3 weeks in the snow, I didn't even start it, and I get back out there and I turn the screwdriver.
That's one of those cars at the end of the road. It's like, man, great engine. God, I get a great engine.
Great engine.
Good engine.
But it's funny to me because I feel no sense of discontentment or unhappiness or anything anymore. I used to, of course, a lot.
Right.
But because of that, now I'm going, okay. And every once in a while, I'll do a check-in. I'll just close my eyes and say, Spirit, can you show me where we're at with the Jeep?
Where's my Gladiator?
Well, and it's funny because I'll see it as sitting in the driveway, and it'll be in a phased state.
Yeah.
Meaning you can kind of put your hand through it, and it's like not fully there.
It's not fully
but
there.
It's getting a little more solid.
Right. And every time you get in a car, you start the engine and you hear the Spirit go, "Are you not entertained?"
Well, it's really funny because I'm realizing that on a quantum level, that's kind of how it works. Yeah. If there is a timeline somewhere, if I ever get the Jeep, which I'm going to, like, it's already here on a quantum field level. It is.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
physics, man. It's literally how physics works. Yeah. It's already here. So in this dimensional state, on this timeline, the question is, in what state is the Jeep? It's sitting out there. The question is, what state is it in? I can't see it with my third dimensional eyes yet.
Yeah.
If I close my eyes and work in the fifth dimension, it's there. It's just not fully there yet.
Sure. So by the way, this is like the second time you mentioned fifth dimension. Just go ahead and define that for the group so they know.
Dimension. Craig Ware posted. Was it Craig posted? Yeah, Craig posted an upside down triangle kind of graph thing the other day. So go to the Facebook page on MyPilgrimage. Check this out. Scroll down till you see this. It's an awesome graphic. You won't probably, unless you've done some serious work with psilocybin or something, you won't understand it. But dimensions are, when we're referring, this is where we're getting into quantum mechanics. It's just a way of talking about quantum mechanics. In, when we talk about the Planck scale, which is the line between the material, basically matter and waves. Yeah. Okay. Because most of the universe exists in wave form, infinite potential, until it is observed by consciousness. Okay, we know this, and consciousness solidifies it into matter, which creates this third dimensional thing. Like my hand is 99% empty space, and I can still hit it. Right. And it stops instead of going through it, which it would do if we're working on a quantum field level, but we don't exist at that level on this planet. So but the fifth dimension, and when we're working in spirit, we're on a soul level is that's actually a soul. Right. The soul exists in the fifth dimension. Now the spirit itself as an operating system can go much further. Right. We can go down to seventh, ninth. We can go all the way down to 12. The theory is that the 12th dimension we are in, it's God. Right. Right. That's God.
Deepak Chopra calls God consciousness. Right.
Yeah. That's the oneness, and very few, if anyone, will ever reach that that state in this body, because the question is whether a human body can handle that or not.
But a fifth dimension, if you learn how to operate or to kind of play around in the fifth dimension, it's just a simple understanding of that like what you were describing, the Jeep and in
non-linear space and time.
Non-linear space,
and it's hard to wrap your mind around, but you can.
But you're working essentially. You can. The best way, the easy way to think about it is you're working on a plane of potential. Yes. Everything exists as potential.
And it's measured in frequencies.
Right. And it's measured
so the Jeep is at a certain frequency. The question is, can I sustain that frequency?
Right.
And once I can sustain that frequency, manifestation is easy. It just pops right into the third dimension. Exactly. And that's when it can come in very weird, miraculous ways. Hey, you want this? That kind of thing.
And that's why when I sustain
the vibration of a used barbecue.
Right. So when I was describing, like this young man I was talking to yesterday, I'm trying to describe kind of non-attachment and how important it is to kind of, you have a thing and then there's non-attachment, because when you attach to it, you're essentially not maintaining the vibration. Your ego gets involved, and you start kind of, and it actually lowers that vibration. And I'm trying to describe, and the way I would describe it to him is, I was just saying, look, you have to learn how to enjoy the things you want now. Like, that's the best way you can enjoy it now. Yeah. Use your imagination, whatever you want to do, but you start to enjoy it now. I mean, in that sense, what you end up doing is you kind of operate just through gratitude all the time. Yeah. You're always thankful because you're always experiencing something awesome. Yeah. And once you're looking at your current life and you realize you're grateful for all of it, no matter where you are, I said, you're in a really good space to start understanding manifestation. You start just going, wow.
Because that's a really high vibration.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult place to reach without doing some therapeutic work. It's difficult without doing some shadow work and dealing with some of the trauma, because that trauma is always pulling you back down. Right. And that's the thing is, and there might be people listening going, dude, if you want a Jeep, just go buy a Jeep. I can afford a Jeep. I could easily right now, I could go to a dealership and like this Jeep and bring it home.
You could afford a grill. But
I can afford a grill. I can afford a brand new grill. I could do any of those things. But I'm working on manifestation, because the thing about it is that when to manifest, you have to be in the spiritual operating system, and the spiritual operating system, your spirit, does not allow you to be unhappy.
Right.
It's a prerequisite to manifestation to be in deep contentment with what is. And so I can accomplish a Jeep with profound levels of peace and joy and no sense of discontentment. And the way you see discontentment in someone that's driving the badass car is that their ego is constantly aware that how much love they're going to get from driving this car.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I pull into the parking lot and I'm aware of that girl that I just drove by that looked at my car and said, "Oh, dude, cool car."
Right.
And what you want is to be completely free.
It's quality
of that
girl.
voice.
Quality girl.
Right. Yeah. What you want is to be free of that voice.
Yeah.
So that I want a Jeep, and I want it to be free of any burden to parent me.
Right. But one could argue that then the true test of that experiment is once you have it, right. Once you have it, and now you're driving in your Jeep, and now because inevitably, like I'm not gonna lie, I want a badass sports car.
Yeah.
And it's just because I love the idea of sitting in a sports car and driving really fast. But on this island, especially if I go rolling through Kihei, Lamborghini or something like that, you're going to get all of that. Right. And so this is the thing where you go, well, okay, well, we've hit the, I don't know, what's the crossroads here, the thing that
it's the crux,
the crux of the problem. And this is it. This is the crux of the problem. So let's hit this. You get what you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you the contentment, but you get the ego hit from it.
Yeah.
What do you do now?
Well, and that again depends on your paradigm. So if your paradigm is one of the spiritual things, then we use it to heal. Mm-hmm. So like the first time I bought that badass vehicle, when I bought a Dodge Durango, really nice one. I was working part-time, making $10 an hour at Starbucks.
Yeah.
We needed a car because we had a little Volkswagen Rabbit and we had a second kid, and we went to a dealership, and I looked at this $50,000 SUV and I went, I want that. Mm-hmm. And she's like, Amy goes, whoa, we can't afford that. I said, our loan says we can afford that. And I was doing this whole, is God real thing. Like I can just, if I desire it, I can have it. Right. She's like, well, I don't think. I go, well, you just test drive it. Because I knew it would nail her, so she test drove it and she's like, yeah, it's pretty sweet. Well, I got it. And right away, the voice, I pulled up to Starbucks. I heard this voice. Now they'll see how successful you are. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the hell? Because I was learning to hear that voice. Mm-hmm. And I started pulling up to intersections and, oh man, maybe that girl will see me in this car. And I started realizing like, I'm the most insecure person on the planet, apparently. Right. And I didn't know that before. Uh-huh. And I was that before. I just wasn't aware of that. And so something about the contrast, and that's about sustaining the vibration. The vibration of abundance of this vehicle was really, really high. I wasn't at that. And as a result, I was able to, it's almost like skiing at night. You can see the terrain better, because of the contrast of light and dark. So I could see it and I could hear it. And the vehicle ended up just being an absolute disaster. Could never make the payment. Within a year and a half, the engine had completely exploded. Nothing but electrical problems the entire time. It ended up sitting in a driveway because we ended up having to get it repossessed.
Yeah.
And it was,
oh my gosh,
it was everything.
I forgot about that. That did happen.
We still owe money on it. We'll have it paid off here pretty quick. But
you're like Robinson Cano.
I am like Robinson Cano. Exactly. Explain how.
The Seattle Mariners thing, where his contract, right?
Oh yeah,
Mariners still paying on that contract.
Yeah. Bad decision.
Yeah,
and
bad decision.
And the great thing about it is that because it gave me everything it was supposed to give me. The question is, did I have the paradigm to receive what it was trying to teach me? And luckily, I did. Yeah. I was able to go, okay. I still to this day, I still call it my ego mobile, and it was here to show me, teach me, kick my ass in a million different directions. Sure. And I'm grateful for it. And the next time that vehicle comes, it'll come in and I'll be resonating at the same frequency, and it will be a complete thing. And so there will be no voice. There will be absolutely no voice saying, you're cool, you're not cool. It'll just be pure enjoyment of this beautiful thing. A little bit like, when you go, like now you enjoy a good vacation or a good bottle of scotch, or you enjoy those kind of things. And I still, my life is very much about keeping my ego in check. It was interesting the other night. I went to buy a bottle of scotch. So for the listeners, you guys are probably aware by now that Dave and I love scotch. Okay. It's one of our favorite things.
I made out on Christmas too, man. I did some, I
didn't get one single bottle, not one.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. Not one bottle. But my birthday, I know I will. Every on my birthday, everybody.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry about that.
No, dude. The pair of shoes you bought me were awesome, and I
appreciate
it.
You like that?
Yeah. It was a. I'm looking at the scotch, and
what kind of scotch is it first? What'd you get?
Well, that's part of the story.
Okay, good.
I love to just sit. I'm in this giant store. Yeah. The collection there is amazing, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, and I said, I'm gonna give myself a really good bottle of scotch here because I can afford it.
Yeah, you can afford it. Yeah.
I haven't allowed myself to build some sort of cabinet or a collection yet because I'm waiting for certain benchmarks in my life to do that. But then I went, and then I realized something. I was like, if it's always awesome all the time, then it's never awesome. And I went, and I right there, I could hear my ego, and I'm going, okay, I'm setting up a rule. Every fourth bottle of scotch, I will buy myself something nice. I'm not going to allow myself more than one bottle at a time, unless it's my birthday or whatever, and somebody buys me some. And every fourth bottle, I'll buy a nice bottle.
Yeah.
But I'm going to drink average at best scotch most of the time, so that good bottle still, I can maintain the illusion that it's special.
Yeah.
Because it's just an illusion.
Right.
Because it's all good. So I bought a $20 bottle of shelled egg.
Did you really?
They make a decent bottle of scotch, man, and it's not bad. It's $20. And I got an Islay, and it's actually decent.
There's no bad whiskey on Islay.
Right. Exactly. And it's a value scotch. And I bought it, and I'm like, and I was like, whoa. And I could feel it in my spirit. It's going, yeah, buddy, good job. That's the thing. We're just gonna live in this space constantly. And for me, it's very much about keeping the ego in check. And as long as that's the case, the manifestation is a continuing process. Right now, I'm working on the car, and I'm working on the house.
Yeah.
Because my kids are old. They need their own. They're 9 and almost 8, and they need their own bedrooms now because they've been sharing a bunk bed for years. And so it's time to get serious about that. And that's where my spirit to play in how that interplay with the third dimension comes. For a while, it's been going, you've got to get better at doing business. And now it's time to take all that abundant thing that's rushing through, and instead of just burning it because it's fun, it's time to start channeling it in interesting, creative ways in order to build wealth. And so I'm doing that. And you could say, yeah, but you're the one making the decision to build wealth. I am doing it at the prompting of a spiritual operating system. I am responding to it because I must, because if I don't, I will literally feel my whole system shut down.
Okay. So I think that's a good way to wrap, kind of a last thing to wrap this up. Okay. Yeah. Because we've been talking over and over again, really the main theme through this whole thing is about listening to spirit, about having a spiritual operating system. Yeah. That if
anybody here is going to read about it, Deepak Chopra's The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success.
It's the best book. I just reread it. I've read that thing.
I read it so many times. It's a 45-minute read.
It's a 45-minute read. It's the easiest read there is. It's the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success.
But one caveat to it. He doesn't mention, like many teachers that talk about the law of attraction, they don't talk about shadow. They don't talk about trauma.
Right.
And it's important to recognize that your trauma will come into play and that healing is necessary because that's what's blocking you. So when they say, don't be attached to the outcome, that's not that easy. Because your ego is going to go bananas because that high vibration of that dream you have is going to trigger the low frequencies that are jammed up in your body. And so you have to have a paradigm for that. So be aware that when you imagine, I do this all the time with clients. I have a professional soccer player the other day. I'm having him visualize himself scoring goals for an MLS club. And he was a college kid, and it triggered him really bad. And all of a sudden, all these soul parts, all these parts of him that are like, you don't deserve that. We can't accomplish that. That's not safe. Are coming up. So we're healing, and we're raising its frequency to the point where it's going to feel very natural to have that type of dream.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then it will manifest.
Right.
Given.
So footnote, there's a children's version of that book, by the way. I don't know if you've ever read it. And it's freaking brilliant. Get it. Really? Yeah. Buy it and read it to your kids. Cause he just basically takes it and he says, here's this spiritual, here's how to explain this to your kids. And it's so helpful. I still use so much of that stuff, man. Like I remember he's talking about every time we make a choice, we change the future. He was talking about like things like this, where he just like, oh man, kids can understand that. They can wrap their heads around some of these really, really super deep concepts, And so look that up. I think you'd dig it. So in terms of an operating system, for me, I'll just go first and then you can wrap us up. Okay.
Okay.
I have tools, I use tools to do that. My meditative practice is that yoga, which has come back in a big way. And it's been just incredible. It has been that for me. So the rest of the time, those two things are the things that help me it's just, they ground me in that spiritual operating system. It's like when I get up in the morning,
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get up in the morning and I'll just put my legs over the side of the bed and I'll just be like, oh, I'm already there. I can feel that I'm in that spiritual operating system is my primary system. It's working and it's doing its thing. And those days I go, let's just get to work, let's start writing. Let's go hug my kids, that kind of stuff. But the other times when I get my legs kind of hung over the side of the bed and I go, oh man, I don't feel it. That's when I go, okay, well, the other times, I go, yeah, I'm going to meditate right now, or I'm going to meditate after I have some coffee or whatever. I'm going to go sit out in the living room. I always get up when it's dark. So I always get up before the sunrise. And for me, that's a really peaceful time a day. And then and then the yoga thing that's come back in for me has been, such a gift. And partly it's because for me, and I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I'm an athlete. I've always been an athletic person. I found that for me, that physical movement and breathing and mindfulness exercise, even if it's just 10 minutes, is incredibly helpful. It heals my body in ways that I just so quickly, it's just remarkable. And I had a shoulder injury for 5 months. I haven't been able to play golf or anything like that. And from right off the bat, when I realized that I had this injury, I started hearing spirit going, yoga. Because I used to do yoga in Alaska. Before I moved to Hawaii, I did yoga all the time. And then I moved here, and every studio I'd go to, or every place I'd go to do yoga, whatever, you'd end up with vacation yoga, or what I just call Maui yoga, which is, 25-year-old instructor, wearing next to nothing, who's just beautiful. And then the whole room is full of beautiful 25-year-old surfer girls. And then like 2 dudes that look and smell like Jesus. And they just, and you're like, and I'm this 45-year-old dude with a dad bod and bald head, and just I just would feel pretty out of place. And that's my own ego or whatever. But
everybody in the audience is like, how do we do this?
I just feel so right. So anyway, I started asking Spirit. I said, Spirit, I need a yoga studio. And when my shoulder injury, I was like, that's what I need to heal this thing. And I'm not, poo-pooing doctors or anything, but with shoulder injuries, they're like, oh, we got to do surgery. That's and I just was like, I'm not doing surgery.
Yeah.
And so I was on the Apple TV the other day going to watch a soccer game, and I noticed that up in the top right-hand corner, there was these rings, and those are rings on my Apple Watch. I have this Apple Watch, and I was like, oh, what is that? And I go, oh, it's a fitness. They have Apple Plus Fitness. I didn't know this. I'm sure I'd heard it someplace, but I had never registered that was on there. And I go, I open it up, and there's like everything. There's like meditation, there's HIIT training, there's rowing, there's all these things that I love to do, and there's yoga. And I was like, I open up the yoga thing, and it syncs with my watch, and then it does all this, and then I just go, and there's like hundreds of yoga classes of these yoga episodes, and I just go down to, I go scroll all the way down to episode 1. It's gal and Jessica, 25-year-old gorgeous woman, but she's in this studio, but what the key is, behind her there's this dude with a dad bod, and I was like, and like, I can't remember his name, is like Jay or something like that, or Dan or something, and she'd be doing the things, going to do this, put the right hand under and take a deep breath. If you need to, just move your hand. Ray's got you, or something like that, And I'm like, yeah, Ray, and I'm looking at him, he's doing the dad bod adjustments. I can't quite move like that, so, and it was awesome. And at the end, it was crazy. The first one I did was just 10 minutes, and I'm sitting there and we're doing the little kind of, namaste. And I just started bawling. I just started crying. I just sat there and I just sobbed. And it was just gratitude. It was just gratitude sob, when that happens. And I'm just sitting there going, thank you, because it was such a blessing. I've done it every day now. And my shoulder, and I'm not joking, in 3 days, I've done it in 3 days in a row. It's almost 100%. And I went from like literally like pain in every movement to now I can just do this, and it's remarkable.
Well,
I've been doing massage therapy and chiropractic, and I've been doing acupuncture. Nothing's worked. This
is on Apple TV.
Apple TV, yeah.
I'm gonna check it out. I have that. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, it's a top row on the far right, on the apps screen, and it's freaking awesome. I've been so pumped. So anyway, that's my thing. Those tools are the things that help me, and then the rest of it for now, it seems pretty easy. I think the biggest thing, the last thing I'll say is, patience is the key. You have to understand exactly what you were talking about before, that the linear time thing is not really helpful in this situation.
No. Surrender is helpful.
Yeah, surrender is
the key to the whole thing, is that we let go. That's the tough one.
It's harder for younger people. it's harder for your Nikhils and, you know, and like this kid I was talking to is it's really hard because they want to be famous now. They want to be wealthy now. They want to have everything now because all the rap music and everything they listen to tells them that they need the money now.
Right.
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 In fact, the kid I was talking to yesterday, his name's Asa, great kid. He was saying, he goes, rap music. Oh, rap music. Everyone is just money. I got the money. I got the money. And he goes, and these guys are all young and and I'm like, yeah. And they're all like unhappy. If you talk to the old rappers,
right.
Find an interview with Chuck D.
Right.
You know what I mean? And say, well,
or just listen to the music he's made.
Yeah, and you listen to the music he's writing now,
and it's all about peace and love and joy and happiness. And
exactly, because they're going, oh, it didn't really actually scratch that itch at all.
So to fight the power, it's embracing power. You know,
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my jazz.
I'll finish it with this. Like when Dave says, "These are my tools." There are certain tools that are designed that only your spirit can do. So it activates that operating system.
Right.
And it challenges the ego operating system. Meditation is the key one. Right. But there's all kinds of different tools that you can use. But any type of deprivation tools is helpful. Fasting, limiting, taking the appetite that your ego wants the most. For me, we talked about we're doing a dry month. Yeah. I love to have that drink. Alcohol, I'm not an alcoholic. Ego loves it. And then every day do that. Pour myself that scotch and sit down and relax. So depriving that is something that is done through the spirit, and it challenges the ego. Meditation does that, yoga, exercise, any of those kinds of things. And healing work is a really, really key thing to the whole thing. I mean, I help people learn in my practice now, after we do healing, and I teach people the law of attraction, how to do it and how to do it effectively. And it always involves healing, always involves dealing with the traumatized parts of us that cannot vibrate at the level of the dream that we have. And so I'm constantly trying to show people the difference between a dream and a fantasy. Yeah. A lot of people live in they don't have a dream, they have a fantasy about they see themselves playing in the World Cup or something like that. But it functions like a drug. From a vibrational level, it's just a high vibration you can plug into your arm for a while. You can medicate off it for an hour, and then you can go back to your pain. Right. But what we have to do is learn how to use that vibration to pull us forward, and that involves work. Yeah. And spiritual life is about a response. Manifestation is about a response. We activate a desire, and then we respond to how that desire pulls us forward like a tugboat.
Yeah, that's well said.
And it's beautiful, man. And you can go at it from multiple levels. You can go at it. I mean, you can, like I said, you can work your ass off, get all the money, realize you're unhappy, then learn this stuff. Right. Or you can try to manifest, go through a lot of pain and shit while you heal, and maybe have days where you don't eat so much, and then you can learn how to manifest, and then you can do that. But the key to the entire thing is, in the end, and I tell this to everybody, including the professional athletes I work with, is if we become successful but we're not at peace and have true joy in our hearts, and we have completely failed in this process. It has to be the marker. And I'm out to prove that players can reach Michael Jordan level greatness and still have actual peace and joy in their hearts. So
cool. So you haven't tasted that scotch yet, or you did?
I had a tiny sip of it.
Right.
I had a tiny sip of it, and then my body was like, dude, I need a month.
I had the same thing. My friend Paul came back he's from Ireland. They were in Ireland over Christmas with seeing his family, and he's a whiskey guy, and he brought me back a bottle of Scapa, which is from Orkney, which is from northern Scotland, which I'd never had before, and I always wanted to have it because I know the Highland Park, is from Orkney, but this is a small distillery in Orkney. Yeah. And same thing. I opened it up and I was like, it's dry January, and I was smelling it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it a little taste. I tasted it and I was like, oh, it's incredible. Then I was like, nope, stop, because I'm doing this. I am doing.
Well, and my body, it wasn't even my ego. My body went, I need a month.
I know. Oh my, after the holidays, holy smokes.
Yeah.
I had our cousin here for the holidays, man.
Oh man.
Just the amount of champagne consumed on New Year's Eve was just jaw dropping. Like it was, and my liver was just dying. I was like, I have to clean out.
Dude, my men's soccer team, we played on Wednesday night. My men's soccer team always has a tailgate at the end. Like a guy has a cooler, as how it is, over 40 men's soccer. Yeah. And he hands me a Johnny Utah. It was a really good beer. And I just took 2 sips, and I'm sitting there going, I'm just going to pretend to drink. We're hanging out with the guys. And I walked back to the car, and I drove, and I'm literally driving down the highway, dumping it out because I'm just like, as much as I love it, I was just like, I need a month.
Yeah,
so
need a break.
And what's funny though, is that I'm a few days out from that now. And now the jonesing starting, because my brain is going, where's the drink? We had a drink for a long time. And so now I'm watching that. And that's when actual ego discipline comes in.
Yep. Yeah, no, so for me, it's a sunset every night. Like so when the sun begins to get low, that always I have this kind of a Pavlov's dog response. I should be sipping like a cold white wine or something, or something like that. The grill or something like that. That's the response. You know, Maria and I often just sit on the porch out here and just sip a little champagne or something like that at sunset. It's a wonderful routine. Yeah. But yeah, I get that. And so what I've been doing, and this is really helpful, by the way, I get I just do Pellegrino sparkling water over ice and I squeeze a lime into it. And I do a little garnish just because that is part of my little routine. It's helpful. And I'll do that and I'll sip it and I'll sip it like it's a cocktail. Yeah. And it's nice. It really actually kind of satisfy that craving.
If you're in Seattle in the middle of winter, our version of that is just tea. I drink
tea, right? Oh, of course. Yeah. No, of course.
That's how I've been doing is every time I'm jonesing now, I drink some tea. And
now I will say this: January 25th is an exception to my dry January because that's Robbie Burns night, right? That's
Robbie Burns night. Oh,
and I'm hosting Burns night at the house. We're gonna get a haggis. We're gonna have a haggis. We're having a haggis flown out. We're doing. So there's gonna be a lot of whiskey that night. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not driving that night. So it's
we're gonna be doing 3 days at St. Katie Lodge, and I'm trying to decide if I'll break it for that, but I don't think so. So cool. We'll see.
Okay.
All right, my friend.
Thanks, man. This was excellent. To our friends there, mypilgrimage.com. Remember the videos are all there. Everything's there. Tell all your porn addict friends because we know you have them. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, what we want to say, like, we still care about the porn addicts. That's just how this whole thing started, and we want people to kind of find this content, information, and stuff. And also, if you want to help us spread some of that, or maybe help manage some of that, we're talking to some people. We need that help. Seth and I are doing lots of other projects and creating new things, but we need people that are willing and they're passionate about this subject matter and want to help us. So look us up. You can email mypilgrimage, the number 3, mypilgrimage3 @gmail.com. All right.
All right. Peace.